Welcome to the Game Before the Money podcast, celebrating pro and college football history. This is a 5 minutes of football history edition. Gale Sayers' 6-touchdown game. Hi everybody, welcome to the Game Before the Money podcast. I'm Jackson Michael, author of The Game Before the Money. This is a 5 minutes of football history edition that comes out every Tuesday, giving you 5 minutes of football history, actually usually a little bit more, because once I get talking about football, it's hard to stop. And especially when you're talking about a great player like Gale Sayers. Gale Sayers is one of 3 people in NFL history in the first 100 seasons to score 6 touchdowns in one game. The other 2 being Ernie Nevers and Dub Jones. Dub Jones will be on the Game Before the Money podcast very soon to talk about his 6-touchdown game. But today, we're going to talk about Gale Sayers' 6-touchdown game on December 12th, 1965 at Wrigley Field against the San Francisco 49ers. 1965 was Gale Sayers' rookie year with the Chicago Bears, and before this particular Week 13 matchup in a 14-game regular season, the Bears were 8-4 coming in and still had a chance at the playoffs. The 49ers were 7-5. The 2 teams had previously met in Week 1, which was Gale Sayers' first regular season pro game. The 49ers blew the Bears out of the water at San Francisco. They had a 45-3 lead going into the fourth quarter, and the 49ers eventually won that Week 1 game 52-24. And in Week 5 of the 1965 season, not very many people remember this or even know this, but in Week 5 against Minnesota, Gale Sayers scored 4 touchdowns in one game against the Vikings at the old Metropolitan Stadium. And similar to what he'd do against the 49ers, he scored in a variety of ways. He had 2 receiving touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, and a 96-yard kickoff return against the Vikings. He even completed a 27-yard pass in that game, and that tells you what kind of all-around player Gale Sayers was. That gray December day at Wrigley Field against the 49ers brought drizzling rain and a muddy field. Sayers later said that considering the field conditions, he expected the final score to be something like 14-7 or 13-10, a very low-scoring game. Sayers, however, quickly scored against the 49ers. He took a screen pass 80 yards for a touchdown on the Bears' first possession. The play came on 3rd and 10, and Sayers made a cut that spun one of the 49ers linebackers completely around. And if you're familiar with the Barry Sanders play against the Cowboys, it looks a little bit like that. That play showcased Gale Sayers' speed and cutting ability. One of the things to know about Gale Sayers is he owned the rare ability to cut across field without losing speed, and he showed it on that first touchdown. On his second touchdown, he showed tremendous acceleration and athletic ability. Sayers took an inside handoff, hurdled over an offensive lineman who was pushing away a 49er defender in the backfield, and Gale Sayers bounced off a pile at the line of scrimmage and ran to his left. He accelerated and beat 2 defensive backs and then angled towards the goal line. 49er defensive back Kermit Alexander was right there near the goal line and dove low on a move that would have tackled most running backs, but not Gale Sayers. Sayers dove over Alexander and into the corner of the end zone for his second touchdown of the day. His third touchdown came late in the first half. Sayers took a pitch out and ran to his right, following a block from tackle Bob Watuska. Sayers ran untouched for a fairly easy 7-yard touchdown, but it showed how he could run equally well to his right as he could to his left. The Bears led 27-13 at halftime. Early in the second half, the Bears had a 3rd and 1 at midfield. Sayers ran to his right on an off-tackle play. Fullback Ronnie Bull blocked a 49er linebacker, and Sayers ran through the 49er line Two defensive backs had chances to catch up to him from opposite sides, but Sayers ran so quickly that he easily outraced both of them and dashed the full 50 yards for his 4th touchdown of the day. His 5th touchdown of the day came from the 1-foot line as he jumped Walter Payton style over the goal line. That was also his 20th touchdown of the season, and that tied a single season record set by Baltimore's Lenny Moore. Sayers' 6th and last touchdown of the day came on a punt return. He fielded the ball at the 15 and dodged a shoestring tackle effort. A block sprung him to the Bear 40, where he made one of the signature moves of his Hall of Fame career. 3 tacklers had a chance to bring him down near the 40-yard line. Sayers cut laterally to his left and cut sharp enough that 2 defenders fell down. Not 1 defender. Sometimes you see a great move and 1 defender will fall down. Gale Sayers made 2 defenders fall down at the same time. The 3rd tackler got slowed down in the mayhem, and there's no way to catch Gale Sayers in that situation. Sayers was long gone, and the 85-yard punt return was his 21st touchdown of the season, and that set an NFL single-season record. He ended up with 22 touchdowns. The Bears won that game 61-20, and remember, San Francisco had a winning record coming into that game. Sayers alone outscored the 49ers by 16 points. And as I alluded to before, he became the 3rd player in NFL history to score 6 touchdowns in one game, joining Ernie Nevers of the Chicago Cardinals and Dub Jones of the Cleveland Browns. Dub Jones will talk about his 6 TD game and share great stories about his life and career with the championship-winning Cleveland Browns of the 1950s in an upcoming episode of the Game Before the Money podcast that I will release within the next 2 weeks. So be sure to subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss that one. Gale Sayers' 6 touchdowns guided the Bears to victory and kept the team in contention for the 1965 NFL playoffs going into the final week of the season. In the locker room after the game, George Halas called Sayers' performance, quote, "the greatest football exhibition I've ever seen by one man in one game." And think about what that means coming from George Halas, who had been part of the NFL since its very beginning. Halas also broke an age-old team tradition, and Sayers became the first Chicago Bear in history to receive 2 game balls in the same season. Sayers also broke the single-season Bears point record that Johnny Lujack set in 1950. That day, December 12th, 1965, was an historic day and an historic NFL season. Not only did Gale Sayers score 6 touchdowns that day, Paul Hornung scored 5 touchdowns that day for the Packers against the Colts. And not only did Gale Sayers break Lenny Moore's touchdown record in 1965, Jim Brown also broke it the next week. But that's another story for another day. Thank you for listening to the Game Before the Money podcast, a 5 minutes of football history edition on Gale Sayers' 6 touchdowns in one game in 1965. Please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done so already, and visit thegamebeforethemoney.com. A transcription of this podcast is available in the podcast notes section of thegamebeforethemoney.com. Podcast transcriptions are powered by our transcription partner, Sonix. Sonix. Visit sonix.ai to learn more.